Welcome everybody. This first live that we are proposing for the launch of Ethics for Growth, new way of doing business, new way of thinking about business, and of understanding how important could be to actually take care of the community while doing profit. Now we're going to wait a couple of canonic minutes to start this actual live. It's going to be very, let's say, brief excursus that we're going to do about the relationship between corporate social responsibility and the post-COVID era. So a lot of companies were involved in responsibility. What did they do? Did they do it well? What could have been done better? What will they do now? So I hope that this will be a topic of your interest. I hope that the cases that are going to be shown will be of your interest. And we're going to be running in a few minutes. Of course, everything is live today, so forgive there will be any technicalities. We are here in double screen, of course, with typical phone. Now it's impossible to live without. And maybe next time we're gonna have like 2 or 3 or 4. Anyway. We're waiting for a few people to get connected since it's just 6:02 here in Italy, where we are connecting from. So let's wait for the Facebook time to get connected to the page, get online, and in 2 minutes we're gonna actually start. There are some partners that probably need to still get online, and we'll be on very soon. I see there are some people connected. Where are you from, guys? Our goal is always to be as more international possible, involve people from all over the world, Western world, East world, North, South, wherever. Doing business in a more sustainable way is something that must be of interest of the whole planet. It's not a race of who does it better. Actually, it should be to push a little bit. 6:03, I think it's fine to start, and let's get rolling. So, the importance of sustainability and CSR in the post-COVID era. Let's talk first very briefly of what kind of CSR. What do we mean by CSR? What are we talking about today? I'd like to define CSR as a sort of ladder, where there are steps. And when a company is involved into CSR, can address several needs, several issues, several stakeholders. The first thing that they can do and they could do is to give employee benefits. So address your own employees to make their life better, to make their life more enjoyable, to make their working environment more appealing, and give them benefits. For instance, health insurance, nannies for their children, mother and father leave, extra leave, bonuses, a gym in the office, time to be volunteers in social activities. A number of benefits that you can award your employees, make them actually more satisfied in the working environment. And it's the very first approach that a company can have. So it's like a sort of internal CSR. You're addressing your own stakeholders, your internal stakeholders, the people who work for you. They are more happy, they are happier, they are more satisfied, they're going to be probably more efficient, they're going to be more loyal, they're going to be proud of being part of your company. And that's the first step of the ladder. Then companies can go beyond what is their own internal environment, and they can start donating. They can start with charity. It's something that was very popular. It has been very popular in this till now. It's basically charity. So, okay, we're getting profits. We have a certain amount of money, certain amount of our revenue that we want to give as a donation to people in need, certain people that might benefit from our activity. And we do it. Sometimes to this kind of charity, there are also tax benefits, but it's not this environment to actually talk about it. But sometimes it's also an extra motivation for company to actually donate funds in charity. But that's it. It's also, it could be company, it could be professionals, any kind of institutions that actually address the external community and donate funds, services, any kind of thing that could be of help. And this is extremely, extremely, extremely important. It's something to admire a company for. It's an extra effort. And then there is another step. So first the employees, then the community as a donation, and then there is a third step of the ladder. That is to combine to this kind of CSR, combine communication. So it's charity plus communication. What does that mean? It means that what we do for the external community becomes aligned with a communication strategy. We do an activity and we make our external stakeholders, so our customers, our investors, our suppliers, everybody else around, we make them aware that we are doing that kind of action. And eventually we can inspire them with that. So maybe we can inspire people to do the same. And of course, we also expect that the people that purchase our products, that they ask for our services, they are happier to do that because we are sensible and charitable company. And this is the third step of the ladder. Then we can get to the fourth step of the ladder. That is what I like to talk about. This is share value. Share value means actually not only to do something towards charity, not just helping the community, but helping the community in those core sectors that actually will also benefit your company and will help grow both. You help the community, you grow your company. More you grow, more you help. You create a virtuous circle. So share value in synthesis is actually generating a competitive advantage while doing social impact. It's extremely complicated, but it's extremely doable. Now, after this small introduction about the different kinds of CSR we can talk about, let's see what has been done during the COVID crisis, in the first part of the COVID crisis that unfortunately it's not over yet. But let's refer to the first months of this pandemic. There could have been two different outcomes. Social impact, so actually helping the community, generating a social impact, or doing social speculation. Social speculation, of course, is something like greenwashing. Greenwashing is more for the environmental specific niche. Social speculation is more broad. It's taking important social topics, of course, and actually doing some actions that have zero impact, but they speculate on them from a communicative perspective. This is something we want to avoid. Let's see who did what. Let's start with the best cases. Social impact. These are 3 Italian very famous brands that they deal in alcoholic beverages, liquors. It is Campari, that also own Martini, pretty famous through James Bond. Di Saronno, which is a bitter, and Ramazzotti. All these companies, they switch their production, and to support the lack of sanitizing gel, they started producing it. Why? Because they were dealing with alcohol already, and alcohol is the main ingredient of this gel. So they use their factories, they use their workers to actually modify a little bit their production line and start producing something for the community. These gels, of course, sometimes they were sold, sometimes were donated, but the important thing is that they went out of their main business, that was liquors, to actually use their production line to do something good for the community. We will see later how this can be also good for the company itself. Another example, Shopify. Shopify did something different. They did something more related to the first step of the ladder. They gave money to their employees. They gave them a bonus. While other companies, they were cutting jobs, they were actually giving them a bonus to support their consumption. While they were working from home, they could actually spend some money for them. And this was a very, very important benefit that Shopify gave its employees. Think about it, maybe your friend, your family, people around, they were losing their jobs, you're working for this company, they give you the possibility to work from home, of course, smart working, and on top of that, they give you a $1,000 bonus to actually spend, of course, on their website to buy supplies. Now let's move to social speculation. I'm sure that everybody that is listening now, everybody that is connected, is aware of these campaigns. McDonald's, Nike, Audi, Volkswagen, they did this kind of campaign. The McDonald's, Audi, Volkswagen, actually, they did something very big. They changed their historic logo to talk about the social distancing, keep distance, and all these kind of things. Well, this was very poorly received by the consumers. People were extremely upset about this behavior because they were using the crisis basically to have free advertisement, to have free visibility, to have free publicity, while people were suffering. This is speculation. Basically, you're giving me nothing. You're producing a campaign, but you're not creating any social value. You're not helping any of my needs. You're just telling me what I have to do, and everybody knows what we have to do. I mean, keeping the social distance was something that the news on TV were repeating. We probably didn't need McDonald's to separate the arches to actually communicate this. But it was publicity for them because we're still talking about it. We are still there. Nike didn't do something extremely sharp, but of course, they created an interesting campaign to foster social distancing, like if everybody could be a hero. True, still, maybe it's less speculated, maybe rather than the other 3. But still, I think this is clear that basically they were not doing a specific action to tackle specific needs. That maybe some of these companies could have donated money, probably, maybe, but what they're communicating now in these kind of campaigns is just that basically they are using the crisis to do some advertisement. This is how people received it, okay? So it's not just a comment of mine, this is actually the critics and how the people also on social media were reacting to these activities. So we're not talking about the effects of these ads from a scientific, academic perspective, but actually from an empiric perspective, how actually people got them. Now, it's a little of an exercise for you. There was this campaign by the NHS in England, basically by the Pret a Manger. That is a franchise, it's a company, and probably some people know it. They are like sort of bistro, fast food, that they were giving for people working for the National Health System in England, free drinks and 50% off on the food, basically. How do you see it? Is this actually something good? Is it social impact? Is it social speculation? I'm not gonna say what I believe right now. It's something maybe for you to use your imagination, to use your critical mind to actually try to interpret this kind of campaign, if it is good or bad, or maybe in the middle, who knows. So, a brief recap. Virtuous actions that were taken during the crisis. One was supporting employees and avoid cutting jobs. This was the main thing, safeguarding the job posts. Then other companies, they gave ahead, they donated money to healthcare and research institutions. Other companies, they donated to people in need. A lot of people lost their job. They actually needed money for their consumptions, for the supermarket, for the grocery, etc., etc. So very important, donating to people in need. They addressed a specific need that sometimes was the materialistic need of basic things. And then there was another interesting case that here I want to present very, very quickly. It's the one of releasing patents. And this is the example of Medtronic. Because clearly during the pandemic crisis, the peak of it, there were a shortage of ventilators. And this company, Medtronic, they had a patent, but their production line couldn't satisfy all the requests. Their supply chain was not enough for all the requests that were coming from all the hospitals around. So what they did is that they released their patent. They said, you know what, we cannot build all these ventilators, so let's do it all together. We renounced to some of our revenues, so from our royalties, copyrights, whatever, because it is a pandemic. So right now, we are gonna do our part, we're gonna earn our money out of it, but all the rest, we're gonna have everybody use this technology, and everybody that can have a production line to build these important supplies to actually do it and do it quickly. So this is another action that companies can do. But what about share value? How a company could create a competitive advantage through social impact during such a crisis? Did they do it? Was it possible? Were just other needs to take care of, and maybe the idea of benefiting your own company on a long-term plan, creating competitive advantage, maybe it was not the time to talk about it, to think about it. Well, it was possible, actually. It was possible. And here, there was the response of Unilever. That usually, being a multinational, is extremely, extremely careful and involved into these kind of actions. And it's very innovative in their way of approaching CSR. And they also do a lot of share value. What they did is that they tackled the issue of the crisis of their supply chain, their suppliers. Maybe a lot of their suppliers were struggling because of the crisis. So what they did is that they supported them. They gave them financial aid. Maybe they paid in advance some of their future supplies. So what happens here is that for sure, Unilever was supporting certain people, certain enterprises. making them alive. But on the other side, they were also taking care of their own supply chain, because for people that work in companies and business owners, they know how difficult it is when one of your supplier runs out of business. You need to find someone else. You need to find someone else that is as good as that one with the same standard of quality. You need to sign another deal. So for Unilever, it was extremely important, extremely important to support these suppliers in order not to struggle later on. Their life was actually helping Unilever to avoid future issues. And since it was a very profitable multinational, it did their job. On top of that, of course, there was the brand reputation effect. Why? Because, of course, look at this title, Unilever, safeguarding suppliers and workers' incomes. If you safeguard suppliers, of course, you safeguard their workers, people don't lose their job. And of course, the company announced this wide-ranging set of measures, and basically the spontaneous positive brand image was a direct effect. So very good job by Unilever, excellent. Another tool that probably we have been using a lot in these months is Google Meet. Google Meet, of course, we all know it. It was an excellent source to face the emergency of smart working. Before the pandemic, you had to pay to actually use Google Meet. It was a G Suite upgrade feature. But now, after the pandemic, Google Meet was free. And it was announced that it would have been free until the end of the pandemic, supposedly October. Now we'll see what Google will do. But the full idea here, why do we talk about shared value here? We talk about shared value because what Google did is to issue a free feature that used to be a paid feature. So basically they are renouncing to some revenues. Of course, Google can do it. But how many of us got so used to use Google Meet for free, and maybe before the pandemic they never thought about actually buying it, but now after the pandemics, after using it for so many months as a free feature, as a free tool, now actually people would like to buy it. It's going to be a need to have Google Meet. So probably what will happen is that when Google will put Google Meet as a paid feature again, people will buy it. More people than before the pandemic. Is this bad? No, not at all. Google actually supported people during the pandemics, giving them a free tool that was extremely important for them to work, because basically everybody experienced some kind of smart working and home working. So especially for people that were not belonging to structured companies, but they were maybe professionals and they were the first time that they were using conference calls to work. Think about also doctors sometimes. They started doing consulting over the computer, over these kind of technologies. And I mean, if I think about the doctor here in my neighborhood, long beard, typical white dress, for the doctors, never used, maybe not even, smartphone. Now, just exaggerating, but still, they never used a computer and a video call to make a diagnosis and to issue, like to provide consult. So it was a very, 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 very important tool that they awarded. It was free, it was easy to use. It also educated people in using this kind of feature to do conference calls. Now people will need it, and probably they will buy it. So they created shared value. They created value for the community. They created value for Google itself. All these shared value projects are always long-term plans. They're not immediate, they're not right away. You will see the effect of a shared value project in time. Well, this is it basically for today. If you have any questions, I would like you to type them, and my director is gonna report them to me. In the meanwhile, I would like to conclude with something important. Why are we talking about this? And what is that little logo that you see at the bottom of the right bottom of the screen under the thank you? Ethics for Growth. Well, what we do in Ethics for Growth is sharing this kind of contents to make awareness and also to train people like you to actually change the way of doing business. So now here we presented certain cases, but will we be able in general as a world community to change for good the way of doing business, or will we be stuck with profit, no matter what? Well, this is what our community will be for. Will be to actually talk about how to do profit while being ethical and responsible and support the community. Now, I'm gonna start taking some questions that I'm already reading. So, other examples of COVID social speculations. Well, specific examples. I'm gonna just say about general examples. Why? Because I don't want to be, extremely picky. Because the speculation very often is something, it's something subjective. Okay. Here in this case, I could say that there was for sure speculation. Why? Because we had the comments on all the people on their social media that they were extremely upset by that. But what is speculation? Speculation is actually using the pandemics to do something else. For instance, in Italy, there was a company that started, and that is in Italy, probably all over, but I think about my case. Now, I don't remember the name of the company because it was not a brand. But what they did, many companies, was to start selling their typical masks at an extremely high price, overpriced. And the government had to promote a law to actually set the price of 50 cents per mask because they were speculating on the crisis. So this is a very, very important example of speculation, even worse of what those companies did. They were just doing free ads. Here they were actually making money on people dying and people facing a global health crisis. So this is the main example I can think of social speculation. When there is a crisis and you have some services or products that actually are very, very important for the people, because without that, they risk issues, and then you overprice them. That's the worst kind of social speculation. Then the other one is the one of communicating something that you don't do, basically greenwashing. So there was now not related to the crisis, but there was a scandal with IKEA, if I'm not wrong, that their supply chain was actually not that ethical because some of their suppliers, they were not respecting laws in Eastern Europe, etc., etc. So if you then say we are an ethical group, but your supply chain is not ethical, this is another way of doing sort of speculation. You always need to be consistent, coherent with what you do. I hope that this answered your question. Of course, for more cases that we will post constantly, follow our socials, follow our page. There will be more. We're gonna go more into details with our set of experts, and then there are gonna be surprises soon. So stay posted for this. Now, unfortunately, we don't have time to address specifically a lot of cases. which is the role of CSR in gaining a competitive advantage in local and international markets? These are another nice questions. Thank you very much. I really like the word international here. Why? Because sometimes, especially if you're not a very, very famous brand, having an important social impact can help you in expanding in a certain market. I've worked in Thun, that is an Italian retailer, more than 100 shops around Italy, 80 millions of euros of revenues 4 years ago, 120 now, a lot of growth in 2 years. Also when I was there, and I was working for their corporate foundation. Well, Thun was invited in among the most important tables of international retailers and multinationals, not because of its success as a retailer. I mean, Zara, boom, Thun, boom. But sorry for that. I mean, being Italian, sometimes we use our hands a lot, but you can get the idea. What is a huge company towards an important national company. But they were sitting at the same table in the retail conferences. Why? Because of how Thun was using its corporate foundation, how good they were doing. Why? Because the other CEOs, they wanted to speak with our CEO to understand how they were merging the business strategy with the social strategy. So this is a very, very, very important aspect. When you want to go abroad, when you want to sit at important tables, if you have an impact, a strategy that has a very high social impact, and you can prove it, the importance of metrics, and you can communicate it in a good way, then it helps you position your brand. And about this, and about it is a competitive advantage to do that, I'm gonna speak very, very briefly about another case study, that is the one of the Body Shop. Body Shop is a British chain of soaps and other beauty products. Their core business was to have everything organic and not to use anything tested on animals. So organic supplies, no animals tests. What happens? The Body Shop is bought by L'Oreal. L'Oreal at the time was at the center of a scandal because they were using a lot of animal tests. The consumers of the Body Shop, they started boycotting the brand that they loved because they didn't think that the purchase by L'Oreal was coherent and consistent with the values they were accustomed to buy and to purchase for. L'Oreal faced that the Body Shop under their management and their ownership was facing a crisis. People did not want to buy. L'Oreal was forced to sell. And they sold to Natura something, a Brazilian group that basically had the same core values as the Body Shop. Now the Body Shop rised again. So this is how you are competitive. People buy you because you follow certain values. And this is the advantage. How important is the CSR in our work environment, and how important is employee satisfaction in a company? Thank you for also this question, because this is a key point. Of course, I didn't address this because it would deserve a talk, just this aspect. Sometimes, as we saw the first minutes of this slide, the first ladder, take care of your employees. It's extremely important. Especially now that the employees are millennials, are the new generation Z, etc. Now, young people don't just want to do a career. They don't want only their job, their house, their wife or husband or family, or the dogs in the neighborhood. This was probably an American sitcom of the 60s, 70s. Now they want a job with a purpose. And most jobs are not nice. I'm sorry to say this, but most jobs are not as expected. People get out of university with high expectations, but then overall they do normal jobs that are extremely important for what they do, but they sit in front of a laptop, they do other things, they work on their phone, on their mails, but still they want to have an impact. How can their job, maybe their job as an accountant, that is a key role for a company, path has zero social impact. How can a role as an accountant become a role with social impact? Well, by involving that accountant and by involving all of your employees in the social activities of the company. Make them proud of what your company does, of the values that your company carries out. For instance, company I was working for awarded 1 week to all the employees, 1 week per year, to do some volunteer activities within their corporate foundation. And this week of volunteering was not out of their leave, was not vacation, was paid. Instead of being in the office, they could actually help people and get paid for it as if they were working. Well, we did a survey and it resulted that the reason why people were extremely happy to be in that company and they were not thinking about leaving for another company was the job that the corporate foundation was doing. They felt proud, they felt belonging to something bigger. And this is very important. It's not that difficult to do it. It's actually easy, it's actually cheap. It just needs a little bit of imagination, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of vision, and it needs values. The first thing is that your company needs to have values and needs to follow them. If not, it's speculation. Should local governments promote CSR strategies? What should be the local government's role in this? Well, this is a tough one. Why? I know that in some countries, I'm not precisely expert on the legislation, but I know that in India, for instance, CSR is actually a sort of duty for many companies, depending on how much is their revenue. Still, we say that we have to do good, but we have to do it good. Sometimes if governments force a company to do a social strategy, probably they're just going to do it to comply, but will they do it properly? I'm not sure about it. For sure, governments should give the possibility of being elastic, of being flexible for companies that want to do certain kind of things. I think that in this case, even though I believe in welfare, I believe in the importance of government in supporting people in general, I think that in CSR, it's more the market that requests an action by the companies. We live now in a world where the highest amount of money invested to research in a vaccine was private, and it was the Bill Gates Foundation. It's not government anymore, it's companies. I mean, the richest country in the world is the United States, and the second one is California. Why? Because of the Silicon Valley. That means that it's those companies and multinationals, they have more purchasing power, more investment power, more R&D power than most of governments around the world. This is where we live in. I mean, we can like it, we can not like it, but that's the reality. So governments, I think they should be able not to block these kind of actions. Then, of course, they can do something, this yes, about fining and giving control on what is speculation. So right now, it's just quite often it's brand awareness, it's brand reputation. But if a company says that their cotton is made in I don't know, somewhere in Asia, and everybody's happy they're doing it because people are respected, but then they are not respected, then the government where that message of the country where that message was delivered, they should do something about it. Not, of course, they cannot do something to that company because the people in the production side were not treated well because it's not their competence, but they could do something about the message. So fact check, we talk about it a lot about fake news. So there should be some sort of agencies, bureaus that they control, that what company says about CSR is actually what they do. I think this is the most important governmental role to have in this kind of environment. I hope this answers to your question. Maybe keep following us on Ethics for Growth. Eventually, if you have any more detailed questions, I'm very happy to talk about it. Send us some direct messages. We can even go into more details. Now we have still more questions. I'm very happy about it. How CSR strategy can improve the relationship with the stakeholders, facilitating the growth of business, also in an international level? Well, this is a general question, of course, it's the key. What you're asking here is basically the base level. It's important. The answer that I give you is do your homework, do your analytics. When you do an action of CSR, you need to think about all of your stakeholders. Employees, customers, suppliers, investors, shareholders, management, and the public in general. So how to improve the relationship? Well, it depends on the strategy that you adopt. It depends on the needs that you have. Do you have a problem with your investors? Well, take an action that can convince them that what you're doing is worth doing. Overall, the important thing here is metrics. You need to measure everything. You need to measure your results. And you need to measure your social impact, so your social results, and you need to measure your business impact, so how your company is changing, how your company is benefiting from it. So it's two different metrics, both important. Because if I say that I spend $1,000 per day in supporting a community of farmers in Peru to produce tea, I'm sorry if there is someone for Peru and they don't produce tea, and just it's a metaphor. But let's say that you are producing there, and overall, you have this money, you give them to someone there, and instead of actually supporting the farmers, this money stops an intermediate level because an intermediary is basically stolen them and not making them flow. But you said that you did it, and you use this for your company to tell your employees that you're a nice company. Well, this is not good. At the end of the day, people will know, your employees will know that basically you're fake. So the important thing is to have the right metrics. If your action is not working on a social level, stop it. Stop it, change it, never too late. Reallocate your money in something that can work, and start measuring again. And of course, if the numbers are good, that's how we improve the relationship with the stakeholders. I like what Carla here is saying. It's a very nice comment. She says that she gave a slightly different direction to her university career because she didn't see a positive impact on the typical jobs that she could get after the master. Yes, this is why we're here. This is to show students and senior students, and also young professionals on one side and companies on the other side, that jobs can have a purpose. And jobs now must have a purpose. Companies must have a purpose. Why? Because companies now are the engine of development and of innovation. To link back to the governmental question, yes, companies are doing innovation now. Most of innovation is because of companies are developing products and services. So governments are still extremely important. but companies are the main characters right now, and we are seeing this in the face in facing these pandemics. So absolutely, Carla, yeah, we all, like, I think a lot of us share this this very important thing of having a job with a purpose, a job that matters, and the difficulties of universities to actually transfer this. This is not a bad thing, it's just universities are about academic contents. This is extremely correct. It's important to have a preparation. But after that, what else? Ethics for growth could be an answer. So stay tuned on that, because this is really our goal. Another question, how E4G is different from the hundreds of existing consulting and enterprises. Thank you for asking this, because there is a very big difference. E4G is not it's not just a consulting enterprise. We're just not doing consulting. We are creating a community. We want to change the way of doing business, not just consulting a couple of companies and getting our fee and be happy with it. There is already something good. No, we want these projects to be shared. How and with whom? With the community. We want contents to be shared. We want professionals to be trained. So students and professionals will be part of our community, and they will have a practical training on the job in working on actual projects to show them and to learn how to develop corporate shared value projects. In this way, we aim at creating awareness, not just in companies, but also in the people that will work for those companies. It's a bottom-up approach. It's not just top-down. So this is how we are different, why we are different. Because we start from people. We start from young people. We start from students, we start from young professionals, and we start with young companies and all the companies that are young in their mind, that actually want to innovate and want to be part of a change. So for more info about this, of course, follow us, but this is the main difference. We are a community, and the people in our community are not just people who listen and learn, because that is university for, are people that use their hands and their minds on project, and they actually practice. And of course, there will be a lot of interaction with experts, with case studies, and best cases, worst cases. So it's very dynamic. What we're doing now is what the community is about. It's about sharing, it's about Q&A, it's about thinking and developing together. So in these days, so now I'm going to use this last question to actually give you a spoiler for all the ones that are connected now. Very soon, we're going to open our community. We're going to open our community, and it's going to be now at the end of August, beginning of September. It's a little of spoiler. Probably the people here will receive some special notification about it. And we are going to start our 12 months course. That is not a boring course, not a typical boring course. It's actually a participated course. It's what I was saying before, basically. It's learn by doing, it's training on the job, it's working on projects, it's working on real projects and working on case studies. Of course, first we're going to work on case studies, then we're going to do workshops, and then, this is another spoiler, every 3 months there will be an actual client, a company, a startup, they want to become ethical and sustainable, and we're going to ask you, people in the community, to actually give us your project. And the project selected, of course, is going to receive something in exchange. It's going to be an excellent thing on our CV. It's going to be an excellent journey, a way of doing team building with people that probably are from different countries, different culture, different way of seeing business. So this is what it's about, and we're going to talk about 12 different topics of CSR. We're going to start with strategy and share value. We're going to talk about the importance of the supply chain, of the environment, of the green energies. We're going to talk about ethics in general times. We're going to talk about employer branding. And right now I'm going to stop because there are 12. Some of them will be shared immediately now after we open the community, and the others, of course, for the people that actually join, they will know. There are 12 main topics. One is also about the cities, something I like particularly, how cities, how the urban environment is involved into this. And there will be also waste management and other things. So subscribe in our page here on Facebook to get all the updates, to be updated about the launch. Remember to take a photo of the webinar and share them on Instagram. If you like E4G, please start to spread the voice, talk about it. I hope you liked this live. I'm sure that already you love this topic because you're here. So the change starts from these little things. The change starts from people that actually believe on this possibility, and they actually think of the possibility of having a purpose. I'm gonna take the last question now that I'm reading. CSR should be integrated in government's national and environmental security strategy as part of the country's strategy to preserve the environments and the communities. Yes, of course. I still think that governments should control, should give a direction. It's different from them to actually have a certain kind of impact on the quality control. The quality probably will be on the market. It will be our duty to choose the responsible brands. It will be our duty to select our suppliers, etc., etc. What the governments must do, yes, absolutely, should be in their strategy to preserve their territory, is to take care of the environment. So environmental laws, absolutely, is a branch of CSR that must be regulated by governments, and governments need to take care of the public green and the environment. So absolutely, yes. And governments should control the information. How? I'm sorry, this sounds bad. No, the governments should control the truth of what is said. So if something is false, they should sanction the company that is lying. So this is very important. Government should control what companies are saying compared to what companies are doing. And they should also foster transparency. I think that now we are already ahead with this. Another spoiler, this is what we are going to talk also in the community, ESG, so the transparent governance of a company. That is actually very important. It's also very important in finance right now. A lot of funds now, they give their money only to certain transparent companies that are careful about social themes. So also ESG is going to be another topic of our discussion in our course. So hope that this is it. And thanks for everything, guys. Thank you very much to everybody who joined us today. And keep following us on our channel, on our channels actually. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, for more about CSR. Thank you.